Welcome to the PA Books Podcast. PA Books is a production of PCN, the Pennsylvania Cable Network. This program features interviews with authors of books on Pennsylvania people, history, sports, business, nature, and politics. We hope you enjoy this podcast. This week on PA Books, the author of I'd Like to Apologize to Every Teacher I Ever Had, actor Tony Danza.
Tony Danza, author of I'd Like to Apologize to Every Teacher I Ever Had. For people who don't know this story, what are you apologizing for?
First of all, I wasn't the best student. I wasn't the most engaged, motivated student. I was one of those kids who, in my generation, I think, there was a lot of us that sort of tried to charm the teacher and do as little as possible and just get by. And we knew, because of the country we lived in, that it would all work out. You know, whatever we did, even if you didn't graduate at that time, you could get a job in an assembly line or a construction site and have a middle class life, because the country would provide that for you. But I think a lot of people in my generation, and I just think a lot of people who go to school look back and say, "Geez, I wish I would have done better. I just wish I would have tried harder." Why, I was young and I was stupid and I didn't realize how important it was, and so there was that. And then I did it. I went to Northeast High and spent a year in a very different capacity than most teachers, because I only had one class. I did have a sort of an unofficial advisory that sort of started to light. They just appear, and so I did have some other interactions. I helped with the football team and the marching band. So I took part in a lot of we put shows on. So I was involved in a lot of shows, but I didn't have the 150 teenagers. And I add the word teenagers because oftentimes you hear people say the 150 students. That sounds so bad. 150 students, but 150 teenagers. For those of us who have teenagers, it's a terror, I think. But anyway, so I had the one class, and I was thinking about writing a book about it, and its title just kept jumping out at me from the experience and from the regrets that I think that I have.
How did you come to become a teacher for a year?
Okay, so I was a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher. I went to school to be a teacher, and I graduated in '72, and I just wasn't ready to do that, And my friends did, like my friend Bobby Guvinelli, who's in the book. He went on to teach 33 years, and we were doing this together, and and it's always been sort of a regret I've had I wouldn't say a regret, but just something that thing like that road not taken thing, that what would I, and I really think teachers, the word teacher, the concept teacher, it's like noble. It's like it's just my teacher, it's like, I don't even know how to even characterize it. It seems so, I don't know. It's like such a calling. That's a teacher. It's like that's a priest. I don't know how to.
So how does the reality of it compare to what your image of teachers was?
About the same. I didn't. That didn't change. What changed is how hard it is. The realization of how hard it is and how hard it is to be that teacher, to really be that teacher. Really, it takes an effort. It takes a real commitment to other people, not to yourself. And that is another thing. It's that grasshopper. Remember that show where the grasshopper take the, what was his name? It was the Kung Fu. The guy taught him, and he had to take them. Anyway, I don't know. It's this image I have. So that didn't change. But what changed is that you see the commitment it takes. You see the tenacity it takes.
Well, just a couple of the basics. Where is the high school? What kind of neighborhood
Okay, so
it
it's
is?
Northeast High. Any Vikings in the house? Oh, oh. That's what they do to make a sound. It's Northeast High, Cotman and Algon.
In Northeast Philadelphia?
In Northeast Philadelphia. Linda Carroll is Miss Linda Carroll's the principal. It's a comprehensive high school, over 3,000 kids, over 50 languages spoken in the school, everything from magnet to special ed. Just an incredible 200 teachers. I mean, just an incredible organism, a giant organism.
You did this for a television series?
No, well, yeah, not really. That's kind of a weird answer. I wanted to do it. I was closing in on 60, and I had gotten fired from a job that I thought I really loved.
What was that?
I had a talk show in New York City for a national talk show live, 10 o'clock to 11, an hour every day live in New York. I'm telling you, I was the king of New York. It was the greatest. With such power, because you'd go out and people knew you were on the next morning, so they tried to really be nice to you. You go to a restaurant, so I sort of took advantage of this. And New York is such an incredible city, and it was wonderful. And it was sort of a chance. It was, I hate to sound pretentious, but it was a chance to sort of educate in a crazy way, because I was going to do it sort of an entertaining talk show, but it was going to have something to it. It was going to go against the grain of what we do now, and try to be not only entertaining, but sort of I don't know, how do you put it? Traditional. How's that? That's a word, I think. And send the right kind of messages, I think, in the kind of people that we would have on, and the kind of things we would do, not to proselytize, but just to much like I think TV was in the 70s and 80s when I first got on TV. There was always sort of it wasn't like a message, but there was like something. There was always something that you hoped people would get out of it, aside from the laughs. I forgot where I was. Oh, so I got fired, and then I was thinking, I was thinking I hadn't done anything. I'm worried about, like most Americans, I think I'm worried about the education in America. I mean, every president my whole lifetime has been the education president. It's unbelievable, and we still can't get there. And we seem to be falling back further. I heard an unbelievable statistic the other day. In a sea, you can drown in statistics, and bad ones about education in America. But this one was kind of crazy. Listen to this. If you have two parents who didn't go to high school, didn't graduate high school, excuse me. If you have two parents who didn't graduate high school in Britain, in England, you have a 60% chance of attending college. In America, if you have two parents who didn't graduate high school, you have a 29% chance of attending college. I mean, and you hear all these. I heard one that drove me nuts. Do you know that this is crazy, we are the 24th least corrupt country in the world? There's 23 countries less corrupt. Okay, anyway. I digress.
So you did a TV show.
So I did the show. I got canceled. I was broken heart. I was a little broken up about it. I was thinking about my life. Arthur Miller said, the best you can hope for is that you end up with the right regrets. So I thought about some regrets and things, and the teaching thing came to mind. And I thought, I want to see what it's really like. I want to try it. So I got some Teach for America information, and I was proceeding with that, and then I did what I normally do, which is I tell people when I want to do something that is kind of scary, or it's going to be like when I wrote the book. I told everybody, hey, I'm writing a book. So then everybody goes, hey, where's the book? How's the book coming? Hey, we're going to see that book. So it puts some pressure on you. So I was doing that I think I'm going to give a couple of years up and teach, see if I can do that,
So teaching came first, and the reality show came second?
No, it was totally me trying to think about fulfilling this, or traveling the road not taken. So I said it to a bunch of people, and people was, oh, wow, it's very, and one of my friends is this muckety-muck reality show producer. And he says to me, I'm thinking about doing it. He said, that'd make a pretty good TV show, he says. So I said, no, it can't. It can't be a TV show because a TV show, the main agenda is ratings, our ratings. The teacher's agenda is the kids, their education. It's cross purposes, we'll never get there. He said, no, listen, we can do it. Let me make a call, let's see if we can get the assurances. It'll just be about the kids, but we'll film it. It'll be like a documentary, and okay. We'll see. So I didn't think he was going to be able to sell it. I didn't think he could sell it anyway. I mean, in this world, and by the way, has it ended up the ratings? So anyway, he called me back. He says, I can sell in a half an hour, he said. He called me back in like less than a half an hour. He says, we got a meeting about your teacher show at A&E this weekend. This week. So we went, and they gave us all the assurances, and they wanted to do the same kind of thing. They understood that education is something that we all should be concerned about, and maybe if we did a show, and this is how I got convinced too, is that maybe if we did a show about it and really put a spotlight in there, we'd show the country what it's like in an inner city school. I mean, people think they know. The only time we really see is when there's a tragedy, but people think they know. So okay, so I thought, maybe this is a good way. It might even have more of an impact this way, So that's how it became, and we ended up here in Philadelphia.
How'd you get the school to agree to it?
Good question. Good question. We were up in New York, and we were trying to. We actually had picked a high school, and we were working there. We made our proof of concept, and but they were lukewarm. Not only the school, but the district. New York was just, kind of lukewarm. And you can't help but think it's because people don't want cameras in their schools, because they. So anyway, we started asking around, and we went to a lot of the school districts all over the country. And Mayor Nutter, Susan Pinkinson, and Mayor Nutter heard about it, and he liked the idea. And he's really, I just think he really thinks about the kids in Philadelphia. I just do. But anyway, so we came down. He gave me a choice of schools. I had Washington. I had Northeast, and one other school, which I cannot remember the name. This is what happens as the years go by. And but I loved Northeast. As soon as I saw it, I just loved it because it was a comprehensive high school. It's not it's a neighborhood high school, a community high school, and so that's why we did it, and that's how I ended up here. And then so I thought that I had found a way to make teaching pay. I'd make it a TV job. It's a great idea. I'd be a teacher, and I'd be a TV. It'd be so unbelievable. So then it got canceled, and well, before they put it on, they stopped shooting. And then when they left, I really was a teacher. I wasn't getting paid. But anyway, I didn't get paid anymore. So, then I ended up staying for the year, which I had planned to do. I really wanted to spend. I hoped the show would be a hit. We do 3 years, and then I pass it on to another celebrity. Rosie O'Donnell was saying she wanted to do it. There were people that were interested. And I thought maybe I'd, in my grandiose mind, I was going to license it to every country in the world, and the French celebrity would go and teach school, and the German celebrity, it would be that kind of a thing. And again, as a way to focus on education. That's all. Maybe in this world, that's the way we have to do it in the context of what we live. Maybe that's, you're nothing if you're not on TV. I don't know if you know that, Brian. So maybe we got to put the schools on TV. Anyway, that was my attempt.
So what's it like teaching teenagers?
Well, I always tell people, what do you think it's like to, now you're not a teacher, so you come into this, but try imagining teaching or just explaining a concept to somebody who has no prior knowledge, no prior conception of it, like irony or whatever. Just try that concisely. And it was like, forget it. It was very difficult for me, especially initially, because I was entertaining more than I was teaching. I
You
think.
taught English?
I taught English.
Why
I think
English?
it's ironic. I think that's it. But speaking of irony, why English? They picked English. I was a history major, and I tell you the truth. I thought I could have a better experience teaching history, not only because I was better versed in it, but also because I have a theory about this, a technique. And my technique is I try to attach everything to their lives, to the students' lives, everything. And I didn't know how I would do that. It seems obvious to do it in history because it's history. But English, now how do you Julius Caesar, how do I make that, And so that's worried me, of course, and not knowing the curriculum even. But I think all first-year teachers have to go through that. I don't think anybody knows the curriculum until, 3 or 4 years in.
How did the kids react to you? I mean, did they treat you like a novelty, or did they know who you were?
They were born 2 years after Who's the Boss was off the air. So and one kid said, I think my mother's a fan, it was like that kind of attitude. I found that if I didn't play to the camera, they didn't play to the camera. I strategically tried in the beginning to hit the ground running, to not make it like some kind of an event. It was 10th grade English. You only get one 10th grade. I got to make this count. I think that's another thing that people don't realize about teaching, that there's this tremendous responsibility. You're not just doing your job, you got this kid's future in your hands, and a lot of them, And so I didn't let the cameramen fraternize with the kids. They had to stay away from the kids. There was no interaction at all. So this thing sort of, and just to give you an example of how they sort of faded into the background, it was in the show, caught a kid cheating, because he was on camera. He forgot he was on camera. He's doing this, he's looking at his thing, schmo. And of course we couldn't do anything because we wouldn't know about it because it was on camera. I didn't catch him, but no, I think that it was about how I did it. You know what I mean? It was all about how it was up to me, and I played it straight. I really tried to set high expectations, tried to have a good lesson plan, and tried to make a dent in what is the real problem, The real problem, and we'll never solve it unless we solve this problem, is that we have a culture that sends messages to the kids that undermine education all the time, whether it be reality TV or the images of successful people, and then you're fighting youth, which is the big thing. You're fighting, in a lot of cases, poverty. You're fighting single motherhood, huge problem. One of the best indicators of student achievement is the academic success of the mother in the home. So if you have upwards of 70%, out of wedlock births, you start with a big problem there because there's not much education, and you're fighting a thing that I think has happened to the kids too, is that they've sort of been conditioned that it's up to the teacher. In the district in Philadelphia, I kept hearing this over and over and over. It was like a mantra: engage the kids. Hey, how are you going to engage the kids? What are you going to do to engage them? Get something to engage. And the kids know this. So they come in and they go, hey, engage me. I'm here, I have this image where the kid puts his head over, you open up his ear and pour in the English, So they have that. So what I would try to do is, in the classroom, I put a big sign up in the front. I made them put it up. Take part in your own education. Take part in this. You got to engage. I can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself. I mean, and by the way, you do as a teacher. Right now, you want it more for them than they want it for themselves. But it's not working. So it's like you almost want to have a national campaign where, much like we did, akin to where we changed the attitude of the country about smoking and drunken driving, those kind of things, where you could make some kind of a way to say to the kids, hey, look, it's like that. I had this thing in the book. there's a thing in the book, I gave one detention. And the kids were like, rooting for me to give a detention. It was like, you got to, two of the girls said I had to grow some balls. So, so anyway, finally, this girl kept giving it to me, and she's a wonderful kid, and she really was a wonderful kid. And at times, she's a magnificent student. Other times, she just doesn't want to be bothered with you and lets you know it. So, and disruptive, in a disruptive way, too. So finally, she was late, and I pulled the trigger. I said to her, hey, you got a pink slip, going to detention. By the way, I didn't know when I gave a detention, I had to be there, which is, I thought they went to some detention place, So, but back to what I'd like to say to the kids. I said to her, in the morning she came, and I said to her, hey, Charmaine, how long do you think you're going to be in school? And she went, oh, forever. And I said, no, here's your life. This much is school, right here. And you don't want to be like somebody else I know, out here going, geez, I wish I would have done better over there. And it'll affect everything that happens from now on. And just to touch their lives with it, when we were in Julius Caesar, I said, Brutus says to Cassius when they were about to go and fight Antony, Cassius wants to wait. Brutus says, in the affairs of men, there is a flood. There is a tide taken at its flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, and the rest of his life is mired in the shoals and miseries. So I said, that's what he's talking about. Remember I told you that thing about taking your life, so you could make some kind of connection there. But that's until we can convince them. I mean, listen, all right, so them kids walk into Northeast High, right? They come into Northeast High, they go through the metal detector, walk in. Yeah. Boy, they tell me this is important. They tell me this education stuff's important. I walk in here. Then you go to the mall and you see this magnificent structure. Unbelievable. Oh, wait a minute, which is important? You see what I'm saying? So there's messages always, and I think kids get it. I did a fundraiser here in March. It was great. Budget cuts. You know what's going on here. But they laid off the school nurse. I mean, it's sort of symbolic. I mean, I know it's bad to lay off anybody, and gym and art teachers and shop teachers, all that stuff. But this nurse thing sort of struck a chord. I came down and I did a teachers versus student talent show. It was great. But we did some local press. I went on TV and mentioned the school nurse. And it must have had like a visceral effect. They came out. It was like over 2,000 people came out to the show. And it was amazing, we did really well. We raised some money, but more importantly, we said that we raised a little morale on the kids beat the teachers, by the way. We raised morale on the teachers, and we sent a message to the kids that we care. And I think that's what's important. And that's what worries me about this, lack of commitment to public education now. I know in Philadelphia they want to close 40 to 64 schools, and little by little it's privatizing it. The problem is that to me it seems like you're going to end up in a two-tier system where you have, the poor kids without the parents, and the ones aren't motivated in one school, and then you get everybody else somewhere else. And it's in New York City, I don't know about Philadelphia, but in New York City, 50% of the schools are 90% segregated. So you're already talking about, it's almost like separate but equal again, So you got to be careful that these are our kids. These are America's kids. And we got to understand that.
Were there any kids you taught who were real hard cases who you just couldn't get to? I mean, you're right, like Al G, not his real name, I guess.
It's not his name, Yeah, no, he was a beaut, but he graduated. And, he's one of those kids like me, like I was, but he doesn't realize he's not living in the time I was living. I mean, and he doesn't also realize. I mean, here's the other message as kids get. College is too expensive. It's not, and you got politicians telling them it's not even worth. Where are you going to go? College? What are you, crazy? It's not for everybody. Wait a minute. What happened here? You know, it's like the age of counter-enlightenment. You know, we're going the other way. I don't get it. So, but he doesn't understand. Another thing he doesn't understand is that, you know, schools, there's financial aid for these kids if they have good grades, because the schools want that flavor that a kid from the neighborhood brings. You know, they're not everybody's from the private schools, you know, and Asia. I mean, basically, that's what you have. So the kids don't understand it. They don't see a way out. They don't see it as their way. I'm telling you, we have to somehow convince them, and we have to all, you know, chime in. This is how misunderstood people are. I mean, misunderstand the situation people do. I was talking to this really, really wealthy woman, old money. And somehow she comes on to me and she starts talking to me. I was in the gym, and she's talking to me about Jersey Shore. And the messages it must send to the kids, you know, and it's true. I mean, you know, you tell the kids hard work and good behavior will pay off. They go watch Jersey Shore, they say, wait a minute, maybe you're wrong, Mr. Danza. But anyway, she says to me, I hate the people on that show. And I said, you know, I got no love lost for the people on that show. And in a way, that's why I'm glad I don't have a talk show anymore, so I don't have to interview them. But anyway, I have no love lost. But if I was 20, in my 20s, and you told me, go down to the beach, I'll pay you, act out, I'd be afraid to see the footage. So I got nothing against those people. I said to her, how do you feel about the suits who you had dinner with last night who are reaping billions of dollars off this stuff? And they're sending their kids to private school. So, you know.
You do have one scene in here, and we only have about 2 minutes left. I wish we had longer because there's a lot to
How
talk
come
about.
I only got a half hour? What was that a deal?
You can have as long as you want.
Was that a deal?
You have a scene where you're talking to Lee from A&E, and he says nothing's happening with this show. Oh, Les. Nothing's happening with this show. There's no drama. We're going to have to start setting things up if you expect to have a show that people will watch. Setting things up. What did he want to set up?
What did he want to set up? You know what they do in reality TV is they soft script the show, which means they have a situation that they come up with, and then the actors or the performers, whatever they are, fill in the blanks. There's no script, but this is the situation, and we'll make this, you know. And he just listen. This was the fight. This was the battle. The battle was, you know, it's impossible to do, which was, like I said in the beginning, you couldn't do it because the agenda of the TV show is ratings. The agenda of me teaching was.
So they wanted you to fake conflict? Or
what did they want? I don't think they wanted to fake it, but they wanted to see more of it. You know, and I wasn't interested in that. You know, if it was up to me, I just wanted the camera in the classroom. I didn't want to go out of the classroom. I wanted people to see what it's like in the classroom, you know, every day.
Did you come out of this having learned things, or did it reinforce things you already kind of thought you knew?
Both, but a lot of reinforcement. But certainly, I learned some things about myself. I really did. I mean, it was really good to be in Philly. It was really, it was like coming home, and it was a good time for that. But really, most of the stuff is just it reinforced. I do know for sure, the thing that I do really believe, that unless we can convince the kids that it's in their interest, we could make this, Chicago, you want to make the school day longer? Go ahead, make it longer. But if they're not paying attention, you can make it 24 hours if they don't really care about it, if they don't understand that this is their chance.
Have you heard from any of the kids since you did the show or since the book came out?
Well, they graduated in June. You know, I was a commencement speaker, and I got a little scholarship program there too. I'm very proud of, in my parents' name, and all the kids graduated. All the kids in my class graduated, and only 2 are not going on to college or some vocational training. I'm very proud of them, and I, you know, the email is the greatest thing in the world because you can keep in touch. Unfortunately, the other thing that I learned about that a teacher really first of all, I don't even think we're trained for it, and I don't think people even realize this is the emotional grind, the emotionally grueling nature of it. Because in order to get the kids to work, you got to show them you care. That's what a good teacher does. Cares about his students. You show them you care, they open up on you, and some of the stories you hear. pretty tough to take. Pretty tough to take. You get adoption fantasies. I mean, you know, it gets to you.
Well, I wish we had more time, but we're out of time. We've been speaking with Tony Danza. He is the author of this book, I'd Like to Apologize to Every Teacher I Ever Had.
I know it's funny, Brian. Every place I go, teachers come up to me and say, I accept.
You've been listening to a podcast of PA Books, a production of PCN, the Pennsylvania Cable Network. Full episodes of PA Books, as well as other PCN programs, are available to stream with the PCN app. Visit PCNTV.com or the App Store for details. Like us on Facebook.